If you put your 8-year-old on puberty blockers and then got mastectomies for her at age 14, how do you live with yourself if you come to the conclusion, oh my God, I basically tortured my child? I was giving shit to the Democrats where I was saying, look, the Democrats are winning the narrative on abortion because they're successfully taking the most extreme position that the right has on abortion, and they're framing that to the average person, that this is what they stand for. And the right's not successfully doing that to the left. So in other words, the debate frequently becomes, but what if a girl is sexually assaulted by her father and she's a teenager? Should she be forced to have that child? And with intellectual consistency, you would say, we cannot murder a child just because the circumstances of its conception were tragic. That sounds monstrous to sort of centrist on the issue, and I understand why it sounds monstrous. I also understand why people have that position. If you think this is a human life, you don't get to exterminate it just because the circumstances are tragic. For example, the argument I would use is, we could all agree after the child is born that it's a human, or well, at least all of us on the right would agree with that, and all sensible people. There are some lefties that would still not think that, but they're in the minority. So if a teenage girl is molested by her father or stepfather and then imprisoned in the home the entire pregnancy, like kept in a basement, has the child, and 2 weeks later the cops break in, free the girl, and the girl says, the circumstances of that conception were so tragic that we must exterminate the kid. Should that be legal? You would say, well, no, it's a human life. We can't. Why can't you just give it up for adoption? Because if I know that that child exists, it'll harm me every single day. It'll be a memory of the horrible pain that I went through. So no. So if you believe that 5 months in the womb, that's also a life, why wouldn't the answer be the same? Once you say it's a life, it's a human life, but I understand the other side of the argument. So you're going to force this poor girl to carry this baby to term, or at least to the point where we can extract it and keep the baby healthy? That seems crazy. It's complicated. And I understand that, I'll fully admit, that the majority of our country would be against that position. Fair enough. But the Democrat position is even more unpalatable to the American people, which is any abortion at any time up until birth. That's the Democrat position. My body, my choice. The implicit message there is, as long as you find a doctor that's willing to go along with you, it's your choice. There should be no law restricting you from any sort of abortion. And I remember saying that, an average debate enjoyer called in and was like, that's ridiculous. Prove to me that that's the Democrat position. Prove it. So I was like, okay, let's look at John Fetterman running against Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz made a statement during, and I happen to know this because I'm in Pennsylvania, Dr. Oz made a statement during that election season where he said, I think the decision should be up to a woman, a doctor, and sort of the local officials. Now, this was his way of saying he was against sort of national abortion bans. Instead, he thinks it should be up to more localities like the states to make these sorts of decisions. And the Democrats went nuts and was like, local official? Why should any official have any say whatsoever in a woman's choice? In other words, there should be no law. But that wasn't enough proof for him. He said, no. The Democrats are just pretending. They're just pretending that that's their position. Nonetheless, if that's what they're pretending, then we should say that's what their publicly disclosed position is. Can you show me anyone, any prominent Democrat that was running? Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. The two last people to run for president is the Democrat. Can you show me anywhere what any law was that they were in favor of a restriction on abortion? Are they on record saying anything? Every time it's brought up in debates, they just go back to talking points. I think it should be between a woman and her doctor. Okay, but should there be any legal restrictions? Or as long as the doctor says, the woman and the doctor both say 1 hour before the birth schedule, yeah, we want to terminate this. You think that should be legal? But the right doesn't know how to frame things, and so they lose the argument. Abortion's difficult. It's like the trans issue. If you are a woman, or a man for that matter, and you have had an abortion or your partner had an abortion that you agreed with, and you later come to the belief that you killed a human life, how do you live with yourself? It's the same with the trans issue. If you put your 8-year-old on puberty blockers and then got mastectomies for her at age 14, how do you live with yourself if you come to the conclusion, oh my God, I basically tortured my child? So you never come to that conclusion out of protection for yourself. You'll refuse to hear any argument to the contrary. I know what I did was right. And anyone who disagrees is wrong No matter what, you'll fiercely defend that position till your end of days because the alternative would crack your psyche. That's the truth. Who wants to debate? Yeah, actually, you're making good points. I might be a fucking monster that murdered an innocent child. Maybe you're right. Who wants to have that discussion? I believe there's forgiveness, particularly through Christ, and that you could say, I didn't know. It wasn't an intentional murder. If you say something awkward and regret it, how do you live with yourself? Well, good question on a meta level. I say awkward shit on a daily basis. I did karaoke to start this stream today. We'll probably do another karaoke song here. I'm fucking terrible. How do I live with myself? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I regret things that I've said or done. I don't think I'm a particularly terrible person, but I don't think I'm a particularly good person either. And I think all of us in that boat, unless we're exceptionally good people or exceptionally evil people, or somewhere within the gambit of, yeah, we've done shit we regret. Whether it be cheating on someone, stealing something, driving drunk at some point in your life, treating your family like shit in some way, screwing a coworker over. All of us have done some shit. And if you're really reflecting on yourself, sometimes there are things that you're like, how do I get over this? Like, the truth is you can't without some sort of guidance. I think that I have the best guidance, Jesus Christ. But I'm not here to badger you about religion. Maybe you come to some other way that you're able to forgive yourself for those sorts of things. But the reality is, saying something you find regrettable, screwing someone over, stealing a little bit of money, that's a different level than you killed your own child because you didn't think it was a child, but now you realize the truth that it was. That's a different level of regret. That's different than I got drunk and said some embarrassing shit. I don't know if I believe they all know what they're doing, particularly young girls that are being told, oh, it's not a life. This is the moral thing to do.